And now I'd like to welcome on to the show Isaac Brown, the head coach of the Wichita State Shockers. Isaac, what's going on, man? How you doing? Thanks for being here.
Not much. Thanks for having me on the show. Always great to sit down and talk with you, brother.
So first and foremost, I just want to say congrats, because I think that you and Wichita State last year were one of my favorite stories in college basketball across the entire country. You had all of this negativity with kind of the way that the stuff ended with Greg Marshall's, and you come in, you batten down the hatches, you go out and win the league, you go and get your first head coaching job. It's awesome, man. Great story. I just want to congratulate you on that first and foremost.
Appreciate it. Very excited about the opportunity. Mr. Boatwright, President Muma, they gave me an opportunity, and these players stepped up and, helped us out, and we were able to win a championship.
So at what point did you realize that this group had a chance to actually do something special last year?
You know what? Coming into the season, I thought the group had a great chance at winning. I didn't understand how we were picked 7th in the league. We had a lot of guys coming back off a team that won 23 games the year before. We had 3 or 4 guys that transferred out, but we still had 3 or 4 starters on the team. So I felt good about the team. We added 2 new players, and those guys gelled well. So I felt good about it going into the season.
Yeah, and you mentioned the kind of the continuity. I'm sure that underdog factor kind of helped you guys a little bit too. I'm guessing that's not the first time that you mentioned you guys were picked 7th in the league last season.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I've been here for 8 years, and we've never been picked below number 2. So for those guys, they played with a chip on their shoulder the entire season. They didn't want to let Shocker Nation down. We've had a lot of success here over the last 10 years, 9 NCAA tournaments, NIT Final Four. And that was the reason those guys came to Wichita State. And they just wanted to go out and make everybody excited about being a Shocker fan.
So let's talk a little bit about Tyson Etienne. I don't know if he's going to end up being an All-American or a preseason All-American, but I do know that at the very least, he needs to be in that conversation, right? So what are you expecting out of him this season? What kind of growth have you seen, and what kind of impact does he have on this team, on this roster?
He's the leader of our team. He came out last year. He wasn't preseason 3rd team, 2nd team, or 1st team. He started for us the year before, about 10 basketball games. He came in this year, he led us in scoring, and he just put us on his back. He had a great year. He was scoring the basketball. He was a leader in the locker room. This summer, he flirted with the NBA. He went out and he really worked on his ball skills. He'll play the 2 spot for us, but he'll also run the team at the point spot. He can play multiple positions. He can score it. He can create off the bounce, and he just makes other guys around him better.
Where were you, and what was your reaction when you found out that he was going to be coming back this year? Because I know that you were probably pretty excited when you found out you're getting this kid, a kid that's good, that is that good, coming back for another season.
You know what? I was on a flight to Atlanta. I remember it. And when that flight landed, all of a sudden I had all these text messages, and Tyson, he left me a message, said, "Coach, I'm coming back." And that was the key. We had to get him back. We got a good nucleus coming back with Dexter Dennis and Maurice Judese, but that's just another leader we had that helped us win a championship, and just so exciting to have him back on the team.
I hope he knew you were on a flight and you weren't just leaving him on red after he sent you the text when you didn't respond.
Yeah, he knew. He said, "Hey, Coach, I'm going to give you a call back here in a few." I said, "Tyson, I'm on a flight. I land in an hour. Let's talk when I land."
All right. So he did test the draft waters, right? And I always think it's a little bit difficult to kind of navigate as a college coach. You got this kid, you need him to do a certain thing for you guys, which is really just kind of score the ball, right? If he's going to end up being an NBA player, kind of got to be something where he kind of develops a little bit of that point guard game. How do you manage that by getting this kid to do what you need him to do for this job while also preparing him for what his next job is going to end up being?
Number one, I was hoping he got drafted. I wasn't being selfish. I didn't want to lose him, but I like when a guy can get drafted in the 1st round. I think that'll help our university a lot. I think coming back to college really helped Tyson. He developed so much last year. He went from a guy that was averaging 7 points a game to averaging about 17 this past season, getting player of the year. He really worked. We play him at the 2 spot, but he's a point guard. I think NBA teams are looking for guys that can create in the half court, and he has the ball in his hands a lot, drawing double teams, putting him in pick and rolls, creating shots late. So I think he'll do a good job, and he has a chance to play in the NBA.
Yeah, just because he's not listed as the point guard doesn't mean he's not creating and making plays and having the ball in his hands. So the rest of your guards are pretty promising as well. And I think that that's a really interesting backcourt group that you have. Dexter Dennis is back. Ricky Council showed some flashes of being a, kind of a microwave scorer. I've heard great things about Craig Porter this season. Taylor was speaking very highly of him. And then is it Cory Grant?
Cory Grant.
Yeah, he was a Division II All-American that you have coming in. So you got a lot of pieces there.
Yeah, a lot of pieces. Number one, Craig Porter last year, he missed 60 days, 42 days due to COVID protocol. He never got COVID, but he had close contact. And it seemed like every time he came back, he got injured. So he missed another 18 days due to injuries. So you really didn't get to see him last year. He had a couple games in conference where he really ran our team well, but he missed so many games. And we wanted to add depth at that guard spot. And Cory Grant, he's a player. He was at West Texas State. He led them to the Elite Eight 2 years ago. And last year, the national championship game, they end up losing. But he's an explosive player that can play the 1, the 2, the 3. We wanted to add depth in the backcourt. Ricky Council, he's one of the best scorers in our league per minute. Anytime he played 17 minutes a game, he got 11 points in those games. So I got to get his minutes up. He's another guy that can play multiple positions. We got a guy inside, Maurice Judese. He's a veteran guy in the NCAA tournament. He had 22 points and 10 rebounds. We also added another transfer, Joe Pleasant, kid that played at Abilene Christian. He averaged 11 points a game, 7 rebounds. He shot 43% from the three-point line. We needed some depth at the 4th spot, and he'll really give us that.
Yeah, I did want to talk about Joe Pleasant a little bit as well. I mean, he's a tournament darling, right? He hit the shot that
the free throws.
Or the free throw that beat Texas, and so it's always difficult when you move up a level, right? He's going from the Southland to playing in the American. That's a big step up. Kid's athletic, he can shoot it. Shooting always transfers. So how hard is it going to be for him to kind of get used to playing in a bigger league with better athletes?
I think it'll be an easy transition for him, playing at Abilene Christian. Those guys won back-to-back championships. They got to the NCAA tournament in their non-conference schedule. They all played Power 5 teams, and he did a great job playing against those guys. He's experienced. He's 6'7", 225 pounds of nothing but muscle. He can make stationary threes, and he's a guy that plays well in the system. So I don't think he'll have any problems because he understands how to defend, how to make his teammates better, and he just does the little things that help you win every game.
Yeah, he's definitely not a guy that skips the weight room. I can tell you that much.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Mo Judese, as you mentioned, he was really good in the NCAA tournament. What kind of improvements has he made? I mean, he's one of these throwback big guys, right? 6'8",
yes.
Ground and pound, give him the ball in the post and let him go to work.
Maurice Judese has really worked to change his body. 2 years ago, he was our starting center, and he was starting in front of Jamie Etienne, who's in the NBA right now with the Washington Wizards. Maurice tore his shoulder, had to have surgery, and Jamie just really developed into the best center in the league. So the year that Jamie was a senior, Maurice didn't play many minutes. Last year, he decided to come back. He changed his body. He got bigger and stronger. And, he was one of those guys we could throw it to and really scored his back to the basket. He understands our system, and I just think he's going to have a great season. He's one of those guys that we can really throw it to inside. We needed to add some depth. We went over to Sunrise Christian, and we got a kid named Kenny Poto. He's from Sweden. He played on their national team this summer. Kenny is a guy that can step out and shoot the 3-ball. He's 6'11", so we needed to add some size inside, and I think he'll do a good job of helping Maurice there.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about him because I think that Kenny is kind of I don't know if like the X factor or the whatever buzzword you want to use for it is, but it's that different dimension, right? Instead of having kind of a low post grinder, you got a guy that can step out and knock it down. You can play them together. You could probably space the floor, get a little bit more room in the lane for the big fella to operate. So what have you seen out of him so far, and what kind of impact do you think he's going to have?
I knew he was a guy that could really pass the ball, a guy that could really shoot the ball. He shoots it like a 2-guard. He's got range beyond the 3-point line. But I was really surprised at how well he could guard. He's one of those big guys that he's going to always keep you in front. He's going to always use his length and make you score over him, but he's doing a good job. He's working hard this summer, and I think he's going to be really good for us.
So we can end it like this. What is the one thing that needs to happen for Wichita State this season for you guys to be at the end of the year to say, okay, they've won another American Athletic Conference title? What's the one thing that you're looking for to really improve on, or the one key, the one player that's going to step up? What's going to be that one thing?
I think number one, the expectations. Last year there weren't any expectations. We were picked 7th. I think this year they'll probably have us picked in the top 3 or 4. They'll probably have us predicted to get to the NCAA tournament. So I just think, number one, handling the expectations of having a good basketball team. I think other things we got to improve at, we got to become a better rebounding team. We didn't rebound well last year, so that's something we're talking about every day in practice. We're doing defensive drills. We're running guys for not rebounding, so we got to do a better job there rebounding. And we got to become a better three-point shooting team. The last 2 games of the season, we ended up losing by 1 point, and we were 3 for 18 in those games. So that's one of our Achilles heels. We got to become a better three-point shooting team.
So this is the top 50 countdown, and obviously you guys are going to be a part of that top 50. But I'm kind of thinking at this point, maybe we should drop you out just to make sure you have a little bit more of that locker room material to get you guys motivated for this season.
Exactly, that would be good. But now I think we got a really good basketball team. We have a couple experienced guys. We got 6 newcomers that have had a great summer, and we're just ready to go. Guys are coming in, working hard. We're getting them prepared, and we're just ready to start the season off. I'm so excited that our entire team has gotten vaccinated. That will help us down the line, because now we will have guys that won't have to miss as many games due to COVID protocol.
Well, look, that's a very good thing, and it's something for your program to be proud of. It's been a little difficult at certain levels of basketball getting everybody vaccinated. So definitely be proud of that. Be proud of your head coaching gig. Be proud of being the reigning champions in the American Athletic Conference. So Isaac, I appreciate the time. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me on, brother. Tell Jeff I said hello.
I will. Before we move on, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up for Bet Rivers yet, now is the time, because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, it's more secure, and it's more reliable. Now that basketball season is tipping off, get in on the action at betrivers.com today, or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. You must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. And while I got you here, let's talk about the Field of 68 Media Network, where college basketball matters most all year round. This is a digital media and podcast network that we've been building over the course of the last year. We have shows hosted by some of your favorite players covering the program that they love the most. AJ Guyton hosts the House of Hoosier. Eric Devendorf covers Syracuse on the Scorer's Table. Dan Dickow hosts the Gonzaga Bulldog broadcast. We have Florida's Patrick Young and Duke's Andre Dawkins and North Carolina's Shammond Williams and Michigan's Stu Douglas and Illinois' Deion Thomas. The list goes on and on and on. We have more than 30 shows right now. So hit the links below and check them all out. And while you're at it, make sure that you go check out the Field of 12 Media Network, your home for college football. That was Wichita State head coach Isaac Brown, and I am now joined by Taylor Eldridge, Wichita State's beat writer for the Wichita Eagle and Kansas.com, of which I am a subscriber, as well as Robbie Hummel, an ESPN broadcaster, the 2019 USA Basketball Player of the Year, and the man who once took a shot described by Matt Painter as the worst shot in the history of basketball. What's going on, guys? How we doing?
Doing well. Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
I'm good until you said the worst shot in basketball history. I was feeling it until that.
I was just quoting your coach there, Robbie. All right, Taylor, I kind of want to start out with this. It's a bigger picture question, and I don't know if it's one that Wichita State fans are necessarily going to love, but I mean, you're as in tune with that program as anybody is, and I'm just kind of curious, like with what's happening with the American and some of these programs that are leaving for the Big 12. Where does that leave Wichita State right now as a program, and what do they kind of do moving forward in terms of basketball here?
Yeah, I mean it's a scary time, I guess, for Wichita State. I kind of wrote about, 4 years ago when they were leaving the Valley to join the American. That's the exciting end of, conference realignment when you feel like you're moving up in the world. Now this is the scary side of realignment for Wichita State fans, because now, like you said, I mean, those are three really good basketball programs. And I know all of this is driven by football, but, Houston, huge loss. Cincinnati, big loss. I mean, obviously they're kind of still trying to get things going now under a new coach, but they're still, a national brand and, a really, really good program. And UCF, Johnny Dawkins is a really good coach, and, they're always solid. So, I mean, those three, losing them, that hurts. I think if what they have right now stays together, I mean, that's a big if. I've heard a lot about Memphis possibly leaving in the next round of realignment, 2 or 3 years down the road. If Memphis leaves, now the American is in serious danger. I think if Memphis stays, though, you can talk yourself into this being, maybe a 2-bid league going forward, still a multiple bid league. Maybe not as good as the A10, but, pretty similar on that level. So I don't think it's, doomsday yet for Wichita State basketball, but, it is definitely not trending in the right direction in terms of, conference strength. But I mean, like I said, if this sticks together, and we'll just see how, who the American adds going forward. But, this could still be a multiple bid league. You can talk yourself into it, but it's not going to be the 3-4 bid league that we saw, a couple of years ago that the AAC was able to get.
Robbie, do you think that they've reached the point where they maybe regret leaving the Missouri Valley? At some point, I don't know if it's necessarily a better basketball league, the Valley, but I do think that there is a little bit of kind of those built-in rivalries. You don't have to fly all the way across the country to Tampa, right, to Philly for games. And it's just something that people know, right? Do you think they regret it?
No, I don't think you'd regret it. I mean, the Valley has changed so much. Think about what the Valley was all those years back when Wichita State was in it. Creighton was a member, and the way that league has turned over and changed, and certainly for Wichita State, this has been an incredible run for them, and it started in the Valley and it proceeded into them being in the American Conference. But how could you know? It's such a crapshoot when you see these schools. I honestly, maybe I'm naive. I never would have thought that Texas and Oklahoma would just roll to the SEC. And I get the money aspect of it, but I still look at it as, you really want to go play Alabama, Georgia, Florida in football yearly when you can win the Big 12? I get the money. I understand it. But the brand, Oklahoma has kind of waltzed to going to the college football playoff because they've rolled through the Big 12. And now you got to see those. So I just think that it's such a crapshoot. I don't think they'd regret it. And I think Taylor probably could speak on that better than I can, but I do think that there's been positives. And when you look at playing Houston, Memphis, UConn a couple years ago, Cincinnati, those are really, really good basketball schools. So to me, no. Has it worked out maybe for the best, as Taylor was talking about, where when you enter the league, you've kind of got the come up, and now you're saying, well, where do we go? But to me, I would say no, they shouldn't regret it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point where, it's just so hard to predict where, I think if you ask Wichita State, 10 times out of 10, they're going to take that chance. And like Robbie said, I mean, did it work out the best that it could have? Absolutely not. But, you still have to take that chance and put yourself in the school and, in the best position. And I think leaving for the American was, putting them in the best position. And now they have to deal with, kind of the fallout. And, I talked to the athletic director, Darren Boatwright, and he said they're firmly in the corner of the American. They're not looking to jump ship right now. So they're just going to, let this, play out. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who these additions are. Obviously they're going to be football first, but, for Wichita State, all they care about is, what's the basketball going to look like? So I've seen a lot of different options. And, if they go out west and get those Mountain West schools, I think that's probably best case scenario. But, if they don't and they add some other schools I've been seeing, that's not going to make for, a great basketball product. And especially if Memphis leaves, now you're looking at possible, a 1-bid league, 3-4 years down the road. But I think for now, I think they're just going to wait and see how this plays out. But yeah, definitely some nerves going on in Wichita, and some, some tension there with the fan base, wondering that question you just asked, do we regret leaving the Valley right now?
Even if it is a 1-bid league, though, doesn't it kind of go back to, and not that the Valley was a one-bid league because it was better than that, but now doesn't Wichita State kind of become the big fish in the little pond? And you can,
they're back to where they were now.
totally, but you can schedule non-conference, I would think, because Wichita State is a brand, in basketball, and they certainly have a cachet with their name. You can load up in the non-conference and then look to win the conference. And I know you, as a coach, you don't want to hinge on, hey, we're just going to win the conference tournament every year to go to the NCAA tournament. That's not what you want. But, I guess there is something to say about, hey, we're going to be the big fish and we're just going to have to do that and try to load up in the non-conference. And now we'll kick everybody's butt, in conference play.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. Where Wichita State would go back to being, the main brand in the American, especially if Houston, Memphis, Cincinnati all leave. So, it could end up working out for them. And like you said, they can go, and they've played traditionally strong non-conferences. Sure. So, I think Wichita State could survive. And the middle and the bottom of the American is so much better than the middle and the bottom of the Missouri Valley. I don't know about the top. I think the Valley is a very good. Very good at the top, especially with Loyola coming on. But, I think that's the difference where, I don't think you're going to, at the end of the Valley days with Wichita State, they were going 18-0, 17-1 just about every season. I don't think you're going to see that ever in the American, but I do think they can be kind of that big fish. And in some ways it might actually work out for them. We'll have to, to see how it plays out.
And I think it is worth noting, too, that Wichita State, we talk about Houston and we talk about Memphis and we talk about Cincinnati as these great basketball programs. Wichita State did win the AAC regular season title last year. And I do think that was actually one of my favorite stories of the entire season was the way that things kind of happened in the offseason with Greg Marshall, Isaac Brown stepping in as the interim, going out and winning the conference title. I'm just kind of curious, Taylor, you're around that program more than anybody else. What has been the vibe like under Isaac versus what it was like under Greg Marshall, and how is the fan base kind of taken to him? Are they happy they have a guy that can go out and win a league now?
Yeah, I think the fan base, when all this was going on, they're it was doomsday when, Marshall resigned and, that the whole investigation kind of holding, hanging over the program and a lot of negative press, nationally. And, and then they start the season out losing to Missouri and Oklahoma State. They didn't look very good. So there's, some definite, I guess IB had to win people over. And then that's, exactly what they did. They just it never looked pretty, but they just kept finding ways to win. And I think the vibe around the program is that everyone was so happy for Isaac Brown because, this is a lifelong assistant. He finally gets that chance. He probably didn't want it to happen the way it did, but he finally got his chance. I think he's 51, and to finally get that chance and to deliver and to have just such a good first year. He's so genuine. Everyone around the program loves him. I don't think it's a mistake. This last summer, all the NBA guys were back around the program. Fred VanVleet, Landry Shamet, Ron Baker, all back here because they all love IB. And I think that he's just really instilled, the brotherhood back in Wichita State basketball. Not that it wasn't there before, but I think he's just strengthened that. And now the guys have someone they can, rally behind. And alumni, current guys, and I think everyone just wanted to kind of win it for him. And I think the players were really, they stuck together. A lot of them could have transferred out after, Marshall. They all came to play for Greg Marshall. And once he resigned, he wasn't there. Plus the COVID situation. A lot of these guys could have opted out or transferred. And I think it was a testament to IB and how much these kids loved him that he was able to keep those guys together. And, go through, they had a COVID situation, early in the season, and he kept those guys together and they just kept finding ways to win. Maybe a little schedule luck. They didn't play SMU twice. They didn't play Cincinnati again. You can go down the list. I don't think they played Memphis again. So maybe some of that had to do with the championship last year. But, for Wichita State, you're saying, hey, we played all the teams that we could play. All the other teams had the COVID problems late in the season. We were good to go. So you can't really blame Wichita State at all for that. So, they were really, really excited to win that championship. And, I think people are all on board now going ahead with IB.
Robbie, the big name coming back is obviously Tyson Etienne. What have you seen from him? What do you like from him? He flirted with the NBA draft for a while, ended up returning to school. I've been looking at some All-American teams heading in, and he's one of the guys on my list to kind of be in consideration there. I don't think we're going to have him on one of the 3 teams, but he's good. He's a really good player.
Yeah. No, he certainly deserves to be in consideration for that. And you look at a guy that last year's the co-player of the year in the American Conference. I always wonder about guys when they go get feedback, how are they going to bring it back? Because he goes through the NBA process, and it's pretty out there that he was told, hey, we want to see you play point guard. And we see this with big guys a lot when they're like, hey, we want to see you showcase your jumper out to the 3-point line. And they get in their mind like, all right, I got to play like this. I'm not saying Tyson Etienne can't play point. I think he totally can. I think they're going to have a committee of guys that bring the ball up. And certainly he's more than capable of making plays off the bounce. He's not just a 3-point shooter. He can get to the rim. He can play pick and roll. He can do a lot of things on the offensive end of the floor. But when your focus becomes so solely, I've got to prove I can play the point, because that's what NBA guys want to see. Sometimes it can just be hard. I know my senior year, I come back to a team where Juwan Johnson is now gone. Etuan Moore is now gone. And I'm thinking in my mind, I've really got to score. And I think it hurt me at times because my mindset had changed to where this wasn't really who I was as a player. I needed to facilitate some. I needed to take open shots. Occasionally, yeah, I needed to do that. But in my mind, I was like, for us to win, I have to score a lot of points. And I think it hurt our team at times. I'm really curious to see what Tyson Etienne looks like. Now, I'm going to say this, and Taylor can certainly talk on this. His work ethic is out of this planet. I read a story about how he was at a team function this summer, and everybody else is eating like pizza and wings, and this dude's got fruit and waters. Like he is the ultimate dedicated player, and I think that's really cool to see. He's certainly going to gear up to have a big year. I'm really just curious to see how he plays at the point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point of just trying to do something. You obviously want to help your team win. And I think that's what Tyson did last year, where he felt like, okay, we have a lot of young guys. I have to be the guy this year to, take a lot of the shots. And I think he put that on himself. And it's going to be, a delicate balance this year, because I think this year they do have more options to score. They can be, more well-balanced. Mo Judese really came on strong at the end of the season. Dexter Dennis, every time I've seen him this summer, he looks like he's, in store for his best season. Ricky Council is a name to watch. He's a sophomore. I guess he's still a freshman. That's everyone around here in Wichita thinks he's going to be a big player for the Shockers. So I think he's going to have more help this year. And like you said, I mean, now IB has said he's going to put the ball in his hands more this year. But you still don't want to take away from that bread and butter, which is him coming down from those pin downs and getting him those catch and shoot looks on the wing. And it's going to be interesting to see how IB uses him, because I was really impressed. I thought he reads the pick and roll very well. He knows how to make that dissect the defense and move the defense with his eyes. And I think he can do that. But do you want him doing that the whole game, where he's such a good shooter? He's so good coming off screens. That's the reason why he was the co-player of the year. So it's going to be very interesting. I think that's, one of the big questions is how they use Etienne. And I think he can take a step forward if his points per game comes down. And, Wichita State's overall record might, take a few more losses, but I think they'll be a better team come tournament time, if they find that right mix on offense, where they're not so reliant on Tyson Etienne, because you saw it at the end of last season. Tyson just could not get anything going in the NCAA tournament. They lose a real ugly game to Drake in the play-in game. So, going forward, they need to avoid situations like that where they're not so dependent on one guy, I think.
Yeah, I think that there are probably 3 guys that are kind of locked in here to at least the starting lineup or major minutes, and that's Mo Judese. It's Dexter Dennis, probably one of the best on-ball defenders in the American, and of course Tyson Etienne. And from there, I think you're going to kind of see this roster or coach try to figure it out from there, right? Who's going to be a point? Is he going to be able to go with 3-guard lineups? Who's going to slide it into fours? Joe Pleasant going to get a lot of minutes. The kid from that hit the game-winning shot against or the game-winning free throw against Texas. and Abilene Christian's upset win in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Is it going to be this kid from Sweden? I'm not even going to bother trying to pronounce his last name because I'll never.
Come on, Rob. Kenny Poto. Let's go.
Poto. Poto. All right, so Kenny Poto. But yeah, I think that's kind of going to be where you have to figure things out. Am I reading that right, Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think they do like what they have coming back. Craig Porter is a name that's been I've heard a lot this summer. He just had kind of the year from hell last year. Was in COVID protocol, in and out for I think it was like 60 days is what they told me throughout the season, and then he had an injury midway through the year. So nothing just ever went right for him. But this is a big time defensive athlete. Was a starter on a JUCO national championship team his freshman year. And they've said that he looks way more explosive. This is the guy they thought they were getting last season. I don't know if he's going to start the season, but I think he's going to be a very reliable point guard for them. He's a pass first guy. Like I said, just a total defensive hound. Can really rebound and block shots too at the guard position. So I think he can be very valuable for the Wichita State. And like you said, Joe Pleasant, every time I've seen him, I loved his game. He just is so solid. I think he's going to be a great fit at the 4. You could even see him playing 5 minutes at the 5 as kind of an undersized 5. This team doesn't – the biggest question for me is who plays minutes at center behind Judese. You can probably pencil him in for, 20, 25 minutes, but – what are they going to do with those other 15 to 20 minutes when he's not on the floor? Because they don't really like Kenny Poto. I really like him. I like his shooting. I think he's going to be eventually a great player. But, asking a true freshman to come in and defend down low, I don't know how that's going to go, in the American Athletic Conference. So they're going to have to be creative with how they split up those minutes. I think you're going to see them play a small ball a lot. Joe Pleasant, Monty Jackson's another one they really love. He was a spark plug off the bench last year. I think they really like him in that role. Even if he might be, one of the 5 best players, I think they still might keep him on the bench just because they love how much he changes the game. When you bring him in after that first media timeout and can really flip the script in games. So, and then Ricky Council, I think he's everyone around the program thinks he's the next guy, maybe that next NBA guy for the Shockers. So could he start? You go Tyson Etienne, Dexter, Ricky Council, Joe Pleasant, something like that with Judese. That's a pretty salty lineup that the WSU could throw out, if Ricky Council is ready to take that next step. We saw it at times last year, but, now he's going to have to do that consistently if he wants to, get his name out there and be one of the best players in the American. So I think Wichita State really, really likes its core. They think they can be in the top 25. I think a lot of people are picking them in that 4, 5, 6 range coming into the year. I think Memphis and Houston are probably going to be the 1, 2 locked in. So I think Wichita State could surprise some people again this year. I don't think they're going to repeat as conference champions again, but I do think they could be a better team than they were last year.
Robbie, let me ask you this, and we can end it on this note. Memphis is obviously loaded. They got a ton of talent. They got Penny. They got all these 5-star kids coming in. And Houston is Houston. It doesn't matter who they have on that roster. They are always going to be well coached. They're always going to be tough. They're always going to be physical. They're always going to win a lot of games. What does Wichita State have to do to be able to repeat as American Athletic champs?
I think it's really a simple formula in theory. I think it's going to be harder to do. And Taylor just talked about how we're going to maybe see them play small. They've got to rebound. Defensively, they were so poor rebounding the basketball last year. Mo Desi, I think he gives you 10-4 last season, and certainly finished the year on a high note with his play in the conference tournament and then the way he played against Drake. But he's got to rebound the ball better. And then those guys that Taylor talked about, when you're looking, Monty Jackson, really good athlete, big-time rebounder, but he's 6'7", 205. You're going to have guys at that size coming in, crashing the glass. If you play Joe Pleasant at the 5, boy, it's got to be a collective effort because you're listing him at 6'7", and that was certainly a problem for them last year. And their shooting numbers. I read where Isaac Brown had talked about, man, we've worked on putting the ball in the basket, and that's going to be a big part of it. I think playing with some tempo, getting out and finding some easy baskets in transition. You've got a big-time player in Tyson Etienne, and like Taylor said, there's some really, really solid pieces around him. I just think, can you finish possessions on the defensive glass? Can you make a few more shots from the perimeter and kind of open that floor up? And if they do that, they can be a really, really good team this year. I really think they have something good going here in Wichita.
Well, listen, guys, I appreciate the time. That was our preview for Wichita State heading into the 2021-22 college basketball season.